Hey, I'm Joe Connolly. Today, you are going to meet a business co founder who is a master at pivoting. He pivots one way, then he zigs and zags another on spikes. He's Tiki Barber, former New York Giants running back. And he is the co founder of a company called Thuzio. He also once ran for a 95-yard touchdown. So he sees openings, all right, and he goes after them. And Thuzio and Tiki see some opportunities that they think will last after the pandemic.
Most
So
certainly.
first of all, Tiki, what is Thuzio? What's the
Yeah,
company do?
thank you, Joe. I like those analogies. They're carries over from my football career, but they've also been important in my business career as well, because pivoting is what we've had to do a lot in the 7.5, almost 8 years that Thuzio has been in existence. But in a nutshell, Thuzio is a member-based events company where we bring business executives together with their clients to entertain, excite, and give them unforgettable experiences. And you mentioned some of the things that have come out of the pandemic. One of the beauties of technology, like we're not sitting in the same room right now, is that we've been able to almost double our event count because of the use of platforms that allow us to do events virtually. And so we're doing many more events now than we ever have in live event settings because of the virtual nature of the world right now. And that, honestly, Joe, is what we believe will persist even after the pandemic is over, even after we're doing in-person live events again, and people are going back to stadiums and ballparks and arenas and entertaining their clients that way. This virtual realm makes it really easy and manageable to gain time with your client. And that's what our business is all about.
And isn't that amazing? Who would have predicted that you can reach more people? We thought they wanted to come and shake hands, right? And they still sometimes do.
Yes.
But they're happy, I guess, just to share some time with a star athlete.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's not just sharing time with star athletes, it's business influencers. We've had Damon John on, but it's also culinary guests that we have on. So there are different type of experiences that you can do virtually. Now, let me preface this by saying doing them in person is so much more enjoyable, but it actually is very easy to sit down in front of your computer, grab a glass of wine, and cook with Jose Garces or some of these chefs that we've had on over the last couple of months, and you feel like you're a part of it, and you're learning something that's maybe not typical to your business day, but it is interesting and engaging. And if you bring a client and invite a client, it's something that will always be memorable.
And we found the same thing with the WCBS Business Breakfast, and we will go back to doing some in person, but we are now drawing people who live 80 miles away from where the breakfast might be held that time in New Jersey or Upper Rockland or someplace.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Just amazing. Neil?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with, by the way, that's exactly why we see this as a huge opportunity, despite it almost crippling us. When the pandemic first hit back in March of last year, we were on the verge of collapsing. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make revenue? And a very short pivot from our business clients needed ways to utilize our services to entertain their clients. And so we actually started doing bespoke events for some of our clients. Can you get XYZ athlete to come on and just give a little bit of a talk? And we started testing, and before you know it, it turned into a business. And now, instead of doing 1 or 2 events per month per city, because we're in cities across the country, New York and Philly and Chicago, Los Angeles, Boston, etc. Instead of doing 1 or 2 per month, we're doing 1 or 2 per day, which has been fantastic for us. It's been great for our clients. And our membership has grown because of it. And again, it's people who normally wouldn't be able to come, Joe, as you said, because they're not close to a metropolitan area. They don't live in Chicago, or they don't live in LA or New York City. They can just log on. And it's forced us to change our membership structure. So membership now to Thuzio is free. All you need to do is sign up with a valid business address, and you can have access to our virtual events, invite a friend, and then down the line, we hope once we get back in, in front of each other and have live events, that we'll convert those into other type of engagements with us.
Yeah, Tiki, that's exactly what Joe and I are finding, that people are able to do these more often. They're having, it's easier, less overhead. How many events are you producing a week or a month? How many are you doing?
Yeah, so we're about per month. We're doing about 35 per, for our virtual events, which is pretty amazing considering that, to do 35 in a year was a challenge, back in 2018 or so. And so we've grown our volume significantly. And the exciting thing about that is that it allows us to prep them for when life goes back to normal, when business entertaining goes back to how it used to be. It also created a huge opportunity for us to expand. And we expanded by acquiring a Toronto-based company called Robin. Now, what Robin does is they procure some of the best suites or seats or entertainment packages and sell them to business executives. And so our acquisition of them allows us to expand our product offering, hopefully by the end of the second quarter, maybe the beginning of the third quarter in 2021, those packages will be available, and we'll have grown our membership base. And so the business just continues to grow and expand almost in spite of this pandemic shutting down America for a couple of months.
Yeah, it seems like you have a big team there. It seems like a big operation. How many people are on staff?
It's interesting because it's actually not that big. I mean, we just for a little bit of a background, Thuzio started 7 or 8 years ago. It was me, Mark Gerson, who founded Gerson Lehrman Group, the GLG Group, and Jared Augustine, who was our CEO. He was at Grubhub Seamless in a marketplace type business. We all started this 7 or 8 years ago, and it was essentially, how can you find a way to interact with a former athlete? Right, that was the business. It was simply a marketplace, a digital marketplace, and it started to grow and expand. And eventually, the two companies divided. One became Julius, which is an influencer marketing company, a SaaS product for corporations or businesses or brands that are looking to partner with talent. We provide that interaction. And Thuzio, which is the event company that we've been talking about. But in actuality, they're really the same type of entity. And so when we split about 2 years ago, Thuzio kind of became a startup again. It was, let's refine ourselves. Let's re-examine our purpose. Let's pivot again from where we started, and ultimately it's been the greatest thing in the world for us as we've been able to expand our membership base, but also get leaner and tighter with our team. We started out with about 8 2 years ago. We're about 15 now total employees at Thuzio, and we have a nationwide network of partners and sales folks who go and look into those other markets for us and help us put on different types of events with different types of clients.
How do you make money on these events, Tiki? There was a paid membership. Now you say membership is free.
Yes.
Explain the business to us.
So with the virtual events, because as Neil was alluding to, the overhead is significantly reduced. When we were doing our live events, we are contracting with a facility. We have food and beverage and all of those overhead costs that obviously can add up. And so the membership charge was essentially to help us cover that. And then sponsors became a big a part of the revenue structure. Now with digital, sponsors are a huge part of the revenue structure, especially if the sponsors,
advertising sponsors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so they advertise on the program.
Well, they're just a presenting sponsor. I'll give you a couple of examples. Insperity, who has been with us since the very beginning. JP Morgan Chase, because of our business relationship with them since we really started Thuzio 7 8 years ago. DraftKings, because of the sports nature of a lot of our talent and our clients, they are a presenting sponsor, and they get injected into these conversations. As an example, Bart Scott was on. We did an event with him. I guess probably it was about 3 months ago or so. And part of the conversation with Bart was all of these. Well, how about this prop bet? Would you take this prop bet? And DraftKings has a VIP membership, and you can get access to it through our Thuzio portal. And so it becomes this integrated part of our events. And so the revenue structure benefits us significantly because we're virtual. And obviously when we go back to doing live events, which we hope that it'll be soon. And with our acquisition of Robin, it gives us a technological enhancement. Like we can interact differently now with our members. We'll be able to sell them options to go to suites and games and in live events, and also build this robust platform so that there is an upsell for our membership base, which we hope to grow significantly through the virtual world that we've been stuck in for the last almost 11 months now.
Don't say options this particular week. You
Man.
can now do this. Okay?
Yeah,
Not at all. Not at all. Nobody wants short squeezes here, man.
So just to tie it up, you're able to raise more revenues from the presenting sponsors.
Yes.
And you make it better for them by now making membership free, so more people are aware of their sponsorship.
Because think about it from a sponsor.
The buckets.
Yeah, exactly. Think about a sponsor. Like, what do you want as a sponsor? As if you're Insperity or you're DraftKings, you want eyes, or if you're BMW or whoever it may be, and more importantly, you want qualified eyes. You want to know who your audience is, and that's why when we have our members sign up with their business email, we know who they are, and it allows us to go to our sponsors and say, we have this aggregation of business executives who you specifically want to talk to, and we're bringing them together over a shared passion for sports or food or wine or business information, whatever type of event we're putting on. And it's been kind of eye-opening, how we've been able to gain a lot of this market share and knowledge, because we've been pushed into a virtual world, and it's actually become efficient. It's kind of weird, when you got to get together all the time, you get loggerheads. But when you get separated and you have time to think and breathe, some great ideas have come forward for us over the last a year or so.
And that's just smart, because everybody has had to pivot, and obviously right now it just seems like everyone's becoming a little bit more efficient. Saving time, working remotely. I'm curious, you left the NFL early after 10 seasons with the Giants.
Yeah.
What did you learn on the business side of football, negotiating, that you take with you now in your business life, in your second career?
It's interesting because there's a couple of things that come from that. It's a good question, Neil, because to me, it's timing. And being prepared for your opportunity. Now, this was always a talking point for me when I was a player. For instance, when I was at UVA, the guy who started in front of me, his name was Kevin Brooks. He hurt his hamstring leading up into our first game of my third year. I ended up starting. It was against the University of Michigan, and I was ready for that opportunity and had 180 yards and a touchdown, and it set me on this path. The same thing happens the other way as well. Obviously, we know that I left the game in 2006. 2007 was my last game. And then the next season, the Giants won the Super Bowl. So timing was bad. But
you're too soon.
Yeah, exactly. But as soon as I got out of football, I met, in all these relationships that I had, because I lived in New York City, Stephen Ross of related companies, obviously the owner of the Miami Dolphins as well. And we got into an affordable housing partnership because he was looking to buy a portfolio down in Southwest Virginia, which is where I'm from. In fact, the owner of this portfolio was one of the trustees at the University of Virginia. So this relationship, they just kept coming full circle. But here was timing working against me again, because this was 2008, when the market, as we all know, corrected itself, and tax credit equity went from 98 cents on the dollar to 60 something cents on the dollar. So we couldn't finance these deals. Steve blessedly let me out of the deal. Otherwise, it could have been dicey for my first business endeavor outside of the NFL. But you fast forward 3 years later, when we founded Thuzio with me and Mark Gerson and Jared Augustine, as I was talking about, our angel investor was Steve Ross. And so what I've learned from, obviously my football career, but also my early business career, is that relationships are invaluable, and how you handle those relationships, whether they're big, whether they're successful or let's call them a failure, because it's just the opposite. How you manage those relationships are of paramount importance for things downstream. And so those things help me as a football player. They certainly have helped me as a businessman as well.
And Tiki, you just scooped, in a sense, what was going to be my next question. What is the message? What is the lesson that you find business people most enjoy hearing from professional athletes, and you were just giving one.
Yeah.
What are some of the others? What are some of the others that the audiences just love that other athletes have told?
Yeah, it's a good question also, Joe, because here's the beauty of sports. Because it's just like business. All the things that I was just talking about, the relationships, the having a plan, being on the same page, execution, and accountability. At the end of that, the reward, like all of that is our sport. All of those are sports analogies, right? You can see them, and when you talk about sports, the beauty of sports, in a sense, is that it's immediate. Right? You know exactly whether you achieved your goal. You're not waiting for the end of the quarter or the end of the year to figure out whether or not you had a successful year. In the NFL or in sports, you know immediately, as soon as the game is over. It's an evaluation. It's an interpretation. And so I think the urgency that athletes had to live their lives become important talking points when you talk business. And I think, it's been one of the things that I've always talked about when I've had given conversations or speeches is this urgency, and more importantly, a lack of pride and ownership. Because as a team member, I can't claim, that 95 touchdown touchdown run that you talked about earlier in the conversation, Joe. Yes, it was me doing the work and getting the glory per se. But if Sean O'Hara, my center, doesn't block back exactly right, if a Plexico Burris and a Monty Toomer aren't escorting me 50 yards downfield, literally making blocks 50 yards downfield so that I can scoot by the defenders for the Oakland Raiders at the time and get into the end zone, it's not a successful play. Maybe it's a big play, but it's not a 95-yard touchdown, which is the longest in the history of the New York Giants. And so not having a pride and ownership and understanding that it takes everyone, even those who don't show up on the on the big screen, in order to be successful.
Boy, a lot of business owners can take what you just said and use that to rouse the staff someday. They couldn't do it exactly like you do, but come on now, get out there and clear the way
your
for me.
blockers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll tell you
the
the greatest business advice that I heard from a football coach. It actually came through my brother. So my twin obviously played down in Tampa, who are in the Super Bowl this year. And his head coach, when they won that Super Bowl, was John Gruden. And I tell this story to everybody because it's just amazing. Now, John came there on a trade. He got traded from Oakland to Tampa for some draft picks and I think a couple $1 million, whatever it was. And so it wasn't really his team. It was Tony Dungy's team, but John Gruden was now the head coach. And the only way to win them was to be John Gruden. And John Gruden has all this energy. This was back in his Chucky days. This is back when he was crazy. He has like all this energy and this enthusiasm. And sometimes that it wears thin. Like when you hear it so many times, it's like, all right, coach, whatever. I mean, come on. And so what he would do is just give them one simple phrase at the end of practice or at the end of whatever it may have been. It's like, gentlemen, today, whether you want to listen to me or not, today I need some genuine enthusiasm. And if you don't got it, he threw in an explicative here. I won't blank and fake it. And it was just, it's how you have to go about your job. It's how you have, especially if you're an athlete, but I think also as a businessman, we all have things that disrupt our life. I mean, we're going through a pandemic and I feel so sad for the lives that have been lost and the I don't know, the unease that we feel as a country. But sometimes you have to get up and fight for yourself and fight forward as a country and as an individual. And that's essentially what he was saying. Get up and have enthusiasm, because it's not just for you, it's for those people who are around you. You got to exude positivity. And even when the situations feel dire, sometimes a smile and a genuine enthusiasm goes a really long way.
Well, you're canning it and selling it, Tiki. It's great to talk to you.
Likewise,
the website is Thuzio, Thuzio, and it's just great to talk to you. And you'd be a great coach.
I've often thought about that, Joe. But I don't know if I have the patience to be a coach.
My way or the highway.
Exactly. You didn't get it. What's wrong with you? Bring somebody else in.
High and tight, Tiki.
High and tight. That's exactly right.
Great to talk. Thanks.
That was fun, Tiki.
Joe,
Thank you.
Neil, thank you guys. Appreciate it.